Every day you wake up and you have the potential possibility to be more than what you are. And so what we have to understand is that the potentiality of you becoming more through time is a decision that must be made through conquering the resistances keeping you in a stagnating position. Now we have to understand that time progresses, and to remain in the same deleterious containment, to be contained where you are, goes to show the reflection of your poor inadequacy reverberating through your shit character. And so we have to understand that the potentialities that can be turned to possibilities through the acquiring of momentum to attain such goals requires a character that must wake up every day and demonstrate through the action that must be undertook to create such an outcome. And so what we have to understand is that the degree of your potential being actualized is going to correspond to the current level of potency that you express. And so most of you guys go through life like dead batteries, empty, drained, and poor bitches. And so what you have to understand is that if you seek to actualize your potential, well, you'll have to be a charged battery and you'll have to be moving with voltage. And so most people, they have goals and they say they want to do this and accomplish that, but then we look at them as what they are, and they are empty batteries draining themselves through the negative habits such as porn, the bottle, the vape, the cigarette, and anything to make sure and ensure they enslave themselves to poorer qualities, which are reflections of their internal inadequacies and deficits, manifesting as a coping mechanism for that bitch in the mirror. And so what you have to understand now is that if you seek to express your potential and you believe you're worth more than stagnating in a superficial position that is leaving you worse than before, to have a position in existence to actually be an existential entity with existential awareness, with the ability to pursue and ensue what they desire, but instead stagnate through time and deliriously choose to remain a low-level piece of shit bitch that's going to sit there and deteriorate, decay through time instead of actually move forward. And so what we have to understand is that life is not some neutrality state of being where you remain in the same position until you fucking die. Life is about progress, which is reflected in the space and time continuum as we move forward, which is reflected in the constant expansion, which is reflected in the growing, which is reflected in the sequencing forward. And so to sequence forward is to mature, but to mature as a human mentally is a choice. And so most of you guys are 11-year-olds in 30-year-old bodies, and you're addicted to porn, and you're 40 fucking years old. And so you're a 40-year-old porn addict who hasn't accomplished shit, who is a subordination of a mediocrity unfoldment, who sat there his entire timeline and wasted it desecrating his own self, and then sitting there to postulate and pretend to be something he's not. So what we have to understand is the entirety of your existence and the accumulation of is what the fuck you are. You are not what the fuck you supposed to be when people see you. You are who you are in the entirety, and your being, the all of it, is a reflection of your soul. And so when you jerk off the porn and you pick up a bottle and you need to escape, and when life is too stressful for your pussy bitch ass, and so you need to pick up a cigarette because you're too stressed of what the fuck happened at work, remember that you are a low-level piece of shit, immature 11-year-old in a 40-year-old body. And so once we get past that, now we have to understand that before you could personally develop and progress forward through time and actually mature and match the maturity of your age, or seek to pursue beyond that, well, you have to understand that you have to confront that pussy. And that bitch in the mirror is the reason you will die a failure, low-level piece of shit, inadequate bitch. And so what you have to understand is that the potential is through the resistance you refuse to embrace. And so the resistance of life, which is to conquest and pursue your development, the resistance is reflected in your life in the tensions, the addiction, this constant escapism, and the neglecting the responsibility of your fucking life goes to show what you are. And so every day you have the potential to conquer this resistance and progress forward. And every day you have the choice to become more. But most of you guys are obsessed with being low-level pieces of shit, and you are addicted to remaining a bitch. And so this is going to reflect in your character. This is going to reflect in your life. And so to solve both of those problems, what you need to do is confront that bitch. And so most of you guys will sit there and project inadequacy instead of actually confront that pussy in the mirror. See, most of you guys don't even respect yourselves. You guys disrespect yourself on an endless sequence until you fucking die. And so you have to admit you are a low-level piece of shit. And when you admit you are a bitch, we'll stop pretending that you're not and actually confront that pussy of a mediocre existence. Because you have to understand that you only live once. And so it's all funny. You smile now, but you cry later. You smile and you shove it down, the back of your mind, but then we realize that you're gonna die a pathetic piece of shit. And so then the jokes are no longer funny. Then the existence that you smiled at for the displacement of your anxiety, because if you're smiling for any reason other than genuine happiness, well, there's something in the back of your mind seeking expression, and it's seeking expression through the wrong means. You see, most people, they use their scars as a reason to stay a deficit. But the strongest of people use their scars to push forward. And so while you remain a pitiful piece of shit, culmination of pitifulness and shame and apathy and guilt for that piece of shit bitch in the mirror, remember that every scar was a reason to actually push forward. And so you could remain a desolate, low-level piece of shit, and you could choose to drown yourself through life, and you can pretend like that's not what the fuck you are. But some people see through it. And so we can see through the smile, and we can pinpoint exactly what's stemming and rooting that expression. And the root of that expression is the anxiety you have, and you're scared. You literally fear dying a low-level piece of shit. And so maybe the version of you, your ego so dense that maybe the sword isn't piercing through your shit mind. But what we have to understand is that your existence is corporeal, and you are existing through a temporal sequence, and this sequence is going to lead you to death. And so what you can either do is look in the mirror and confront that bitch, or you could sequence yourself to a timeline of mediocrity where you are a degenerative piece of shit as you chose to watch porn and then project your internal uncontained lust onto anything in the environment that reflects anything high quality, because high quality is attractive, bitch. That's why you need porn up to fulfill your needs instead of actually becoming high quality yourself. And so you have to understand that the actions you take on a daily, this is reflecting your level of potency. And so your potency is going to express your actualized potential. And your actualized potential is going to reflect your reality. And so your reality is a mediocre subordination of a uncoordinated, unintentional existence of mediocrity and shame. And so what you have to do is confront the shame and the guilt and the apathy. And then you actually have to convert and transmute this through confronting the resistance and actually calling yourself out when you do this to yourself. Because the worst person to yourself is yourself. And so you seek to befriend and be the best friend for everyone else. But the way you treat yourself is so horribly and horrendous that, to sit there and pretend like you don't betray yourself every fucking day just goes to show what the fuck you are, which is some piece of shit bitch. And so, again, every day you had the opportunity to grow. Every day you had the opportunity to make the choice you didn't want to make because you were too lazy to you were okay with being a couch potato, porn addict, low-level piece of shit. You were okay with escaping yourself and not looking in the mirror to actually see who the fuck you are, which is that glaring devastation of an existence, the culmination and accumulation of shit. You are a conglomeration of shit. And every day you pile on more shit in the shit pile, and in the midst of that shit pile is a diamond. And to find that diamond, you have to remove the shit. And so what I'm saying is you have to actually look in the mirror, realize your shit, and then you actually have to remove the shit to find the diamond within yourself. But most of you guys are okay and complacent with being shit. And so you're going to die shit. And then 2 weeks later, no one's going to remember you because you were shit. And so what you have to do is become the cause. The causality of your existence is affecting you to be a mediocre piece of shit. And the habits that exist within your mind is a direct reflection of your character, because what you put your time and energy into is what you're literally synthesizing and producing into your reality. And so your habits are a reflection of your soul, because your habits are the trajectory of your existence. And so the trajectory of your existence is going to either sequence you and modulate you to somewhere where you should have been, could have, would have, should have, bitch ass type shit, or you're simply going to just reverse through the fucking timeline and die a bitch. And so most of you guys, it's funny, it's entertainment, but then when we look in the mirror and we realize who the fuck you are the person to wake up every day and to sit there and subordinate in stagnated comfort in this mediocre existence that you don't even respect. And since you don't respect yourself, this is when the actions of disrespecting yourself manifest through you as you choose to watch the porn, then project your inadequacy onto others, but then realize that you're too low quality to actually attract anything of value and worth. And then we have to understand that you have to set your value in motion, because you have to understand that people mistake validation for value because their brain has entrained itself to operate from a state of validation and conformity instead of actual value pursuit. And so what we do is we ensue value, actual tangible value. What we do is we produce and provide mental clarity so you can actually direct yourself to a life that is worth living. Because when we truly look at your life, the reason you exist in a state of constant escapism is because you believe your life isn't worth living, and you're proving this through the actions that you literally do. Like the actions you take on a daily is a reflection of escapism, mediocrity, and the refusal to confront that pussy in the mirror. And so then we understand that if the actions you take is to escape yourself on a daily, we now come to the conclusion that your reality is not worth living to yourself. And so, if you want to escape permanently, because you are going to suffer in your life if you don't do some shit to fix some shit. And so the nature of the universe is expansion. And so if you don't expand, you will contract, and you will be devastated by your inadequacy, and you will reverberate and postulate this throughout your existence. And so you only live once, and to sit there and choose to be a mediocre, desolate piece of shit, bitch, this is going to reflect in the actions you take and the worth you believe you're worth. Because the actions you take is a direct reflection of your personal worth. And most of you guys are worthless, and you prove it with your actions. Because no one who believes they're actually worth something will sit there and jerk off every fucking day and then project their inadequacy onto other people. People who believe they're worth something actually make a change, set their value in motion, and choose to develop through time instead of be their own personal demolition and demolish themselves and then pretend like everything's okay, when deep in their soul they know that they are mediocre and they should be worth more. But since their actions are proving them indifferent, well, they'll stagnate and die low levels pieces of shit. And so you have to actually comprehend the velocity of the message, because you do only live once, and you'll blink your eyes and you'll be a walking emanation of regret if you don't do some shit to change some shit. And so the best thing to do is instill the message deep into your mind to corrode your brain, to make you feel what you need to feel to actually make some change. It's that fucking simple. Peace.